action taken in closed session.
Okay, so on closed session 3A, they approved the following hires by a 5, 2 absent. It was TK, K teachers, certificated, Nate Blamo, new hire on waiver, Trinity Valley. Assistant principal, certificated management, Kirsten Wright, new hire, Hoopa Elementary, 3rd grade teacher, certificated, Becca Doer, new hire on waiver, Trinity Valley, 5th grade teacher, certificated, Janicia Merner, new hire on waiver, Hoopa Elementary, assistant safety officer, confidential, Angel Yazzie. Yazzie, okay, new hire, district-wide, superintendent, interim superintendent, certificated management, Jennifer Lane, new hire, district office. JV football coach, stipend, Cruz Kane, new hire, Hoopa High. JV volleyball coach, stipend, Tasha McCullough, new hire, Hoopa High. Bus driver / gardener, classified, Brandy Hoover, new hire, MTO. Volleyball coach, stipend, Shelly Barrera, yeah, new hire, Trinity Valley. Varsity volleyball coach, stipend, Amber McCovey, new hire, Hoopa High. Yearbook advisor, stipend, Gerald Soho, new hire, Hoopa High. And we had to not do the K through 3rd grade teacher contingent upon a number of items just wasn't ready for it, so we had to pull it. So we accepted they accepted the resignation of the SDC teacher, certificated Thomas Bay. Oops, sorry. And they accepted the superintendent certificated Jennifer Gleck resignation with the terms and conditions. And they agreed to the terms and conditions.
David, can we make one correction that the vote of the new hire of superintendent was
It's not interim.
it's 4. It was 4 and 1 abstention.
Oh, okay. I'll repeat that then. Okay, so Jennifer, so for the superintendent, Jennifer Lane, it was 4. They did these separately. So Jennifer Lane was 4 approved, 1 abstained, and 2 absent. Okay.
Excuse me, I believe under the code, you're supposed to say who voted.
Okay, we can do
Could
that.
you do that?
Yeah, we can do that. So the approves were Myers, O'Gorman, Waddy, McLaughlin. The abstain was Jennifer, now saying you, Laura Lee. Absent was Wild and Colgrove.
Could I,
Okay, and then for the hiring all these positions, it was unanimous. So we had O'Gorman approval, Myers approval, Waddy approval, McLaughlin approval, and approval, and George. It was 5-0 with 2 absent. And the same thing for Jennifer Jennifer Gleck. It was 5 to approve her resignation and the terms of her resignation. Did we have those? Do you have both of them? Yes. Okay. And that was the ones that approved was Myers, O'Gorman, Waddy, George, and McLaughlin, and with 2 absent. I think we got them all. And then on closed session B, that was the negotiation for her terms of hire. You guys all have a copy of it now. And the C and D, there was nothing.
I know it may be a little out of turn, but what was Miss Lane hired for as a
Interim.
interim?
Acting superintendent.
Okay.
She was
Oh,
interim superintendent
Before.
from the time that we put her, she was interim. Now she is an acting superintendent through June 30th, 2023.
Got it. Thank you.
okay, thank you. And I'm gonna.
Just confused with the terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So acting.
Public comment. In order to provide public comment, please complete the speaker's form prior to the board resuming open session. I have one speaker's form for public comment on A and B. Steve?
Yes, one thing it's kind of confusing is the election for the Board of Trustees. Could you possibly clarify the years and how that's going to work with the new map versus what's on the election for right now? It seems like the county Board of Election, from what I've heard, I haven't talked to them directly, but from people that I know that are interested in running, there seems to be some confusion on what's being elected, who lives where, and for how many years. So is it possible that you could clarify that, or is it still just mass confusion?
Terms are 4 years.
No. Jennifer, did you have that question?
I'm sorry, I was answering my fire calls here for my principal, sorry.
Well, I mean, I think I can attempt to answer it. What I think that you're asking is, we all have, like, the county has now broke us into different areas. Okay,
The
so,
county should have those maps.
Yes, but say, one major question is, so in current area 6 and 7, you have someone running in 6, or I assume someone's running in 6. Mr. Lyle's current position is a 4-year term. So how does that blend in with Ms. Myers being on the board?
she'll finish her term. Oh,
No, that's not, I mean, that's not the same map now. We're going
It's,
to one.
Each board member is elected for 4 years. And so when their 4 years are up, they have elections. So the next one, Debbie's position, and who's the other one? Are you the only one?
KTJUSD.
Oh, KTJUSD. They're staggered terms.
I got that, but again, there seems to be some overlap from the current methodology versus the proposed new maps. And that's where the county seems to be confused, and people that are interested in running are confused. How do they fit in there?
they should find out what map that they're on,
Mhm.
where they fall, and then they can run based on that district. For example, Tom and I are now in the same district. So if we both, and we're both up for election, so we will actually have to run against each other.
But according, what's not, I'm not comprehending is, according to the county on the state election list, says Mr. O'Gorman will be running for 2 years. It says that Mrs. McLaughlin will be running for 4 years for that seat. That's what's on the County Board of Elections site. So it's very confusing how this all plays out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean,
Nothing we can say.
Because there's a question about confusion, I think we should be careful not to give out
that's true.
confusing information. So one possibility would be to ask Steve to meet our superintendent about this, but also it might be useful to clarify that we did vote on a map, but it's not our decision as to the terms, how to handle the terms. The county does make that
It's gonna
decision.
be based
So
on
that's
your
not-
address.
Well,
Yes.
right, but which terms are 4 years and which terms are 2 years, that's not our decision. The county will decide that. So we can't really address that issue.
So Steve,
The county.
this is a question, this has been a question in my mind all along. It is very, very confusing. It is. And the fact that we gave it to the county and we're still waiting on the map to be approved, and the people who are running, we don't even know the people running. The county should make that clear to us, because everybody is involved in this whole thing.
Isn't the deadline up?
No, the deadline now is extended to the 17th.
The county office of elections, I just talked with them yesterday. They're gonna have a booth here at Sovereign's Day because of so many of those questions. They're actually bringing a group over and they're gonna set up so they can answer those questions and answer, and have these forms filled out for people and the maps. They said they're getting just overwhelmed with the phone calls, so they're gonna set up a booth.
It's extremely confusing, so, I guess my ask is the board at least ascertain some consistency on how this is applied.
We can only do what we were directed to do. We just had to do what they told us we had to do. They came in 3 weeks and told us you have to decide on this and this and this, and we had to have special meetings. We ran public notice about meetings here for several weeks, and, we did, ended up doing what they said we have to do, so you really have to check with them on all of that.
And when you talk to them, it's basically, I don't know, we'll let you know.
Right, and they blame it back onto the district. here.
No,
That's what
they,
did
from what
when
I
was
understand,
there.
they haven't blamed it on the district. It's just that we don't know. We will try to find out. And the people that I know that are interested in running, they said, we'll get back to you, and haven't got back to you.
Yes.
I'm asking them.
Sovereign's Days this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it should
I
be
know.
thrilled if it's nice and smoky, so, hopefully it's not. Hopefully it all goes off. But that is a point of concern. When I see the forms out there, which is nice, but again, there's no definitive answer from my understanding. And then I have ones on agenda items. If you would take that now, or do you want?
I'd take that just prior to that agenda item.
Okay, for each one? Okay, because it just says 5, so I have number 7 and number 8 that I'd like to speak of.
We have number
Seven,
seven, what?
part of the consent agenda.
It's just, I just call it a blanket one on that one, because it's one that's normally on the
Okay.
consent agenda, but isn't there.
Okay,
So you might even consider that a non-agenda item.
What are you, I didn't.
I'm
hear
wondering
yours.
what has happened with the approval of warrants. I haven't seen that on the agenda for approval of May's, June, or July's warrants.
huh?
I upload them onto the.
Yeah, she puts them on here.
Where is
I
it?
don't see them. If I don't check these, then you can download them. I have APK,
You can sign on. I have to submit, and then I don't know if I have to go through the approval process.
No, it usually goes right on. whenever-
But that's 3 months of, paying bills that we don't know of, and there are some that I would say I'm extremely interested in, how much was spent or wasted on.
There didn't get any more stuff in our packet either.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda.
Can you work on that for next time?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you said you had you have a comment on action item 8.
Well, yeah, there's just a couple of them.
Okay,
The declaration of need for fully qualified educators is one, and then the purchase of the generators is another one, so
okay,
you can call me up on that.
I will. Superintendent's report.
Okay, so David, are you still here? Do you see Matthew on the? Matthew Douglas,
Matt, do we have you on?
I see a D up there.
what is the?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Hi, Matt. So I'm beginning my superintendent's report and you are on my superintendent's report first today, because I've been talking to Matt about our infrastructure problem that we have here in our district with our internet, and as a local service provider here, he has some really great ideas and I want to share those with all of you. that are here today, because I think these sessions should not just be, gripe sessions. They should also be very informative sessions where you learn what the possibilities for our district are. So, Matt, can you run them through the proposal that we had talked about earlier last week?
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm actually up in Eugene, Oregon at a tribal broadband boot camp. It's the 4th of that they have been hosting. And anyways, to get to the meat and potatoes here, what Jennifer kind of reached out to ask me was what we could do for the school district. And I gave her a few options that were basically just be Band-Aids and not a solution for the district. And she mentioned that there could be additional funding for a more robust solution. Fortunately, the tribe has been applying for like an NTIA grant, Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program. And in that grant, we were prepping for additional backhauls to get more internet into the valley to add to our resiliency. And I asked Chris Spiker and Gilbert Martinez to be here today. They are representatives from a contracting firm called Intertribe.
Can you say
And
that again?
they were the ones that helped us. Sorry, Intertribe, ENERTRIBE.
Just speak
Am I
right
coming
into
through
the
clear?
microphone, Matt, because you're cutting out a little bit. So just talk right into the speaker there. Okay.
All right. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. It might be my internet connection too. I'm outside. So we brought on Chris and Gilbert from Intertribe to help us engineer a solution for the NTIA grant. And one of the solutions was a connection from Humboldt State. And that solution would bring in up to a gigabit of internet. And we were trying to figure out how to work together to share that connection. Talking with David Ellie, he is interested in a 50-50 split of that solution. So the school district would get 500 megabytes and we would get 500 megabytes. But before we kind of go through that solution, would it be all right if we kind of talked about like what's happening in the region?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let me see if I can share my screen. And we'll bring up a presentation that Gilbert and Chris were preparing.
Matthew, if it's okay, we can share our screen from this side. I know you're having internet problems.
Yeah, that'd probably be best. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Fikert. I'll turn on my camera here so you can see me. I'm with Intertribe. I'm the wireless engineer for Intertribe. I didn't really design a lot of these backhauls, but any of the new backhauls into the tribe and all the wireless point to multi-point that distributes the internet from the towers to the homes and businesses. I'm responsible for that design and configuration, including bill of materials, training, and implementation. And we also have another gentleman named Gilbert with us today, and he's the field engineer. And we have a few slides to present just to give you an idea of what's been going on in the region, what's been proposed, and just a little bit of education, like you mentioned earlier, to see how the internet is coming into the Hoopa Valley and the Klamath Valley in general. So with that, I'll share my screen, and then Gilbert, if you don't mind just giving a quick introduction, I think we can get going.
Certainly, yeah, you can pull up slide 1 if you'd like. So my name is Gilbert Martinez, and as a field engineer at Intertribe, I work closely with Chris with towers, tower infrastructure, huts, solar power systems, a lot of the offsite systems, and how they interact with fiber as that comes into the region. Intertribe itself is a native and woman-owned firm. It's been around since 2007. We have several remote workers, but we're based out of Southern Oregon. And they have specialized in bringing in start to finish solutions for specifically broadband, but also some other economic development for tribes. Intertribe has successfully helped bring in over $250 million worth of grant funding. And we do the planning, funding, engineering, construction, and help tribal entities go into maintenance after things are completed. For today, we'll just talk about one possible solution, which is the HOOPA and HSU increased backhaul capacity and some of the stuff that's happening in the region. Chris, let's skip from these slides down to slide 8, please. We'll make this PowerPoint available for you to review after. Some of that was just some more information as far as what Intertribe does. But what's happening in the region, there are several different projects outlined here, and we have a slide for each one. We can go to Kirby. I'll discuss 2 of those, and then we'll hand it over to Matthew Douglas to talk about a few other solutions. So the Klamath River Rural Broadband Initiative has been around in planning stages for quite a while. It is over 104 miles of fiber. It's a joint infrastructure project between the Karuk tribe and the Yurok tribe. It crosses several different agencies, state, national parks, state parks, tribal lands, and private land. And so the permitting and environmental aspect of this across these sensitive areas has taken quite a while. At the moment, that permitting and environmental is under review, and it's staged for construction early next year, hopefully in February. And what's important about this fiber run, if we go to our next slide, is it will connect Orleans back to I-5. Currently, this fiber run already exists from Wairika to Orleans. It is owned and managed by Siskiyou Telephone. And as a result, they can provide capacity to Orleans and the Karuk tribe between 2 and 8 gigs, which will travel along that fiber. And if you think of internet capacity like water, the larger the pipe, the more capacity. Or multiple smaller pipes coming in also will create more capacity. And the more routes you have in, you create redundancy or resiliency. As we know, fires are a very big concern. If a tree falls on a power line or a fiber line, it can cut one way in. So we really want to diversify the amount of runs coming in. If we jump to our next slide, Matthew can discuss some of the other fiber projects that help connect this web.
Oh yeah, so I guess I should have prefaced it more a little bit better, but I wanted to change my internet connection so that hopefully I'm coming across a little bit clearer. Am I?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, cool. I switched to my cell phone's internet. All right, so essentially the Yurok tribe, they had a lawsuit with Frontier, and they are trying to bring fiber from Crescent City down through Klamath and into Oric, which would connect to the Kirby project that Gilbert was covering. If you go to the next slide. So a few months back, a company called Golden State Net had actually reached out to the Hoopa Valley tribe to build an underground system from Orleans through to Witchpeck into Hoopa and out to Willow Creek. That project is in its infancy still, definitely a few years out, but they do have a federal mandate to complete that build by 2026, I believe. And they want to partner with the Hoopa Valley tribe to complete that. So the details of that are still kind of up in the air, but it is something to be aware of. And the importance of Kirby is essentially getting the internet feed closer to Hoopa. It's already, Kirby isn't, but the fiber that's in Orleans is already benefiting the school district at the Orleans location. The Kirby project will bring that into Witchpeck, which hopefully will then feed into the school out in Witchpeck, and then ideally up to Hoopa to benefit Hoopa, the elementary school and the high school, and then eventually down into Willow Creek for Trinity Valley Elementary. And that whole project is something that we are trying to figure out, because it's gonna have to go through 3 different tribal territories in order to complete. So if you want to go to the next slide, Chris. A few years ago, Linnea Jackson out of the Hoopa Valley Public Utilities District did a dark fiber ring within the valley, which we are trying to utilize. It actually piggybacked off of the scenic grant that the school district completed from Trinity Valley Elementary to the school district in Hoopa. That was completed by Hunter Communications. It's probably going to be the next slide, but I wanted to touch on that because that's your effort, the school board during that era that approved that project kind of broke the ground for fiber in our area that led to the Hoopa tribe partnering with the vendor that you guys selected to further build out fiber and then to further build out fiber for the CASF grant called HIVB, which again will be in another slide. But yeah, your initial investment in broadband in the area is building kind of foundation for what the tribe is doing moving forward. And that dark fiber project was one of the milestones that the tribe was able to achieve because of it. Digital 299 is a project that the state is funding in combination with Facebook and Google. And a company called Referral Networks is going to complete it. It's coming from the McKinleyville area out into Reading. And essentially, it's taking advantage of a trans-Pacific pipe that's coming in from the ocean that Humboldt County has not had the ability to access until recently. And the CPUC is requiring that the Vero Networks and the firm that's kind of funding this project work with tribes. And how that benefits the school district is we will be able to get access at a very discounted rate to that fiber once it's built. And essentially, this entire kind of like region is going to see a lot more broadband access in the next 5 years, and it's going to be pretty awesome. Next slide. So this is kind of like an overview of the projects that are in the area, where you have the fiber coming from Wairika, past Orleans, out into Witchbeck, out to Oric, up to Crescent City. You have the fiber, the yellow line from the south, and there's the middle stretch that we're trying to achieve in the next few years. This is just like an overview of what's happening with fiber. And essentially, when all these lines are completed, we should have a pretty resilient connection for most of the school district's assets. And so with that, the Hoopa Valley tribe was wanting to take advantage of this. And in our NTIA application that we submitted for $65 million, we wanted to build out fiber to every home in Hoopa. And the little orange lines that you see are the routes that we were planning to build. And the main reason why I kind of wanted to show you these regional builds and what we're going for in the Public Utilities District is to see the investment that the tribe's trying to make into this area, because we think that will kind of solve the digital divide for Hoopa. And I know that you guys have other areas that you need to cover as well. But in the meantime, all of these projects are years from being completed, and we kind of need a solution now. And that kind of ropes back in the conversation that I had with Jennifer about something that can be accomplished this school year. And that's where I wanted to bring Intertribe in to complete the project that we had started. I think, Chris, did I talk to you about this about a year ago, maybe a year and a quarter ago?
That sounds about right.
So the reason I mentioned that is I don't want the board to believe that this is like a project that we put together in a week. It's definitely been in the works, and it's just been brought to our attention that there could be funding to see this project through quicker. And this is where I'll toss it back to Chris and Gilbert to kind of go over the solution that they engineered.
Yeah, as Matthew mentioned, there's always a need for more bandwidth, and wireless is one of the ways that we achieve a lot of that bandwidth to rural communities because it's a lot cheaper than having to trench through the mountains and the trees and some of those protected lands. So what you're seeing on the screen today is really how the internet comes into the Hoopa Valley today, originating down there in the bottom left in Humboldt Hill and kind of zigzagging across the mountains until it makes its way into the valley. And we were also looking for additional ways to get more bandwidth into the valley, because bandwidth is always a precious resource. And so, as Matthew mentioned, this was not something spur of the moment. This is something that we've actually been designing for quite some time. When it comes down to wireless like this, some of the challenges are just frequency availability. We're dealing with frequencies from the FCC that are licensed, meaning that you are renting them and nobody else can use them. So there's a coordination process that goes through, and it really means that there's a limited amount of spectrum. So that we have to factor that into the design as to, because different frequencies go farther in free air and carry more data and things like that. And so it's always a trade-off of being able to get frequencies, tower locations, and then an internet connection to provide the internet across the wireless links. And so this has been something that's been going on for quite some time. And we have a couple of different proposed routes, working with the Humboldt State University, being able to provide that backbone internet feed to a couple of different locations on existing towers that the Hoopa Valley has. And some of those are shown right there, potentially a redundant link to the Humboldt Tower as well for another dedicated line of 1 gigabit per second service, or somewhere else closer to the north in the Aquatic Center, depending on how the frequencies play out. One of those two routes would be able to provide 1 gigabit per second of internet service into the Hoopa Valley, and then subsequently be distributed through fiber through the rest of the community and some of the surrounding communities as well. So again, the trick is just getting it in there and then spreading it around. So this is one of the one of the routes that we have, and then the entire wireless backhaul would look like this, where we have a couple of redundant routes, additional bandwidth routes, getting into the valley to provide at least a minimum of 2 gigabits per second total. And as Matthew mentioned, being able to share that bandwidth with the school district and the Acorn Wireless WISP, it is really a nice complementary solution to provide a high-speed internet throughout the valley and more. So, Gilbert, do you want to talk a little bit about the projects and costs?
Yeah, can we talk about the projects and the costs? Let's kind of wind it down here.
Yep, this is the last slide.
So this is just a breakdown of the estimated costs. Hopefully you can see the numbers from where you're at. But this includes everything from management services, engineering, the equipment costs, construction implementation, and networking support for this link. These are specialized antennas, so they are quite expensive, and the lead times can be, a few weeks based on our current situation. But because it's mostly pre-engineered, we've got a jump start of being able to implement this situation. But of course, there's permitting, city compliance, and several other things that go hand in hand with creating a nestable solution that can be maintained over the long term, which is important. Not just building it, but make sure it stays up and running and has the maintenance and is future-proof to the degree it needs to be. And so this project is based on the last slides with the wireless solution. So that's what would bring in your most immediate link to the Hoopa Valley and to the school. And you would get that much sooner than the fiber projects that are coming. But of course, it would complement the bigger picture that we have described.
David, do you have any?
So the numbers that are on there, are those just the startup costs for construction and implementation, or is that including any ongoing costs for bandwidth?
That solution is just the startup costs to get it all going. Most of it, the increased cost came from the equipment that is needed.
And so suppose the district was able to start construction on the project, what would be the ongoing rates and the ongoing bandwidth? What would we be paying, and what would we aside
Yes.
from, aside from the infrastructure construction?
Yeah, so for the, I guess the short turnaround, we weren't able to do 100% of the discovery on the added tower fees to put our equipment on. And the total cost of the 1 gig from Humboldt State, or Cal Poly Humboldt now. So given the fact that we haven't had enough time to iron those out, I have been in conversations with Josh Callahan out of Humboldt State. He is the IT director, or Cal Poly Humboldt. It's gonna take me a while to keep getting that right. But anyways, I've been in constant communication with him. He's been working with Scenic to dive deeper into the cost. Right now, it's up in the air because they have a contract with AT&T. So that's just the cost for the uplink. He also has to do research with his facilities management division to decide whether or not, what the costs would be for us to co-locate in their facility. Once that's complete, then we shoot the signal from Cal Poly Humboldt to Neyland. Neyland is owned by Keat TV, and that would be another cost that they haven't kind of disclosed to us yet. I'm estimating that they're going to charge us about $900 a month based on current fees that we have with them. And then once it gets into the Hoopa Valley, it becomes a lot more cost effective because this project would be benefiting both the school district and the tribal or the Hoopa community as a whole. So the tower fees are nominal once you get into the valley, but there are upkeep costs for power and generator usage that we would have to iron out as well. I know you want like a cost right now, like as I would as like an IT director. I just don't have the ability to give you like a definitive answer. But what I appreciated from vendors or somebody that I was working with is just a guess. And assuming all of that, in order for us to maintain this system, it would cost us around $6,000, about that. But obviously I need to do more discovery to get a final price. And
so that $600 a month, how much?
6,000
Sorry.
6,000 a month to maintain.
To
maintain the
maintain plus markup or whatever. So then how much bandwidth, what would we be getting? How much bandwidth would be delivered to the Hoopa High School?
For the goal that we've discussed before, it would be a 50-50 split of the 1 gig, 500 megs for the school district, 500 megs for Acorn Wireless. And ideally we can recoup those costs within the 500 megs that you're sharing with us, and have that through subscription fees to offset the cost. But again, we're going to have to discover what the true cost is and what the business model can handle.
So would it be fair to say that 571, 450 is a startup plus a minimum of 6,000 a month, and that would get us 500 gigs?
It's about that. Amount of money.
Correct. And that is just a rough estimate, and I'd have to go through a larger discovery process to tell you exactly what that would be.
And just to be clear, it's 500 megabits per second, up and down.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, correct. Half a gig. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Any other solution other than this, we wouldn't be able to supply the amount that you were requesting. Like the largest amount with our current backhaul that we can supply is maybe 100 megs. And I know that you've expressed at least a half a gig and ideally a gig. And yeah, I currently there's no cheap way to get that kind of throughput to the valley. And I did also want to mention that, this could be a double-edged sword for us as a company, because there is a limited amount of frequency that allows for fast throughput like this. And we were originally planning to bring this in through that grant, but the grant is like a year late. And so we have an opportunity to get this going a little bit sooner with this funding. And the cost of everything is just skyrocketing. When we originally budgeted out this solution a year ago, it was roughly 350,000. So everything's just going up every day almost.
Oh, but if they needed to do their homework.
I have a question.
Okay, so yeah, we'll entertain questions now.
Yeah, I can't hear through those. With this 571, what is the tribe putting up? Are they doing a part of the infrastructure cost too?
So in, I want to say 2021, the tribe put up $2 million to set up a majority of the sites that are currently active that we will be piggybacking off of to get this solution in place.
You're cutting out a little
Yeah,
bit.
you're cutting out again.
All right, let's see. Can you hear me a little bit better?
Yeah.
Okay, so in 2021, I believe it was, or 2020, the tribe put in $2 million to get the foundation of this network up, which will be utilized in this solution. Also, we applied for a CASIF grant that was in one of the slides. In that grant, we built a tower that enabled this solution to even be possible. So as far as the tribe's investment, I believe it's been roughly $4 to $5 million at this point. Is that correct? Maybe Forrest might know more.
Yeah, that's a good ballpark. You're close.
Okay,
Yeah,
any
so,
other questions? Questions from the audience?
And so, and the other thing I guess that's important is then Acorn Wireless will own the infrastructure that's built, right?
Yeah, so one thing that we have that the school district wouldn't be able to supply is a getting kind of technical, but the BGP peering. We would be able to bring the 800 megabits that we have into the valley right now and the 1 gig of this connection to make the system more resilient with 2 different uplinks through peering with 2 separate providers. It's not 100% redundant, but it adds some link diversity. That would make the connection to the school district more stable over time. And we can only do that if we own.
So I guess what I mean is for the Hoopa Tribe's investment and for Klamath Trinity's investment in this infrastructure, that Acorn is retaining ownership. Is that about right?
Yeah, and
which is not unusual. We've done the same
yeah.
thing. We paid construction costs, but I just so we are clear on who's investing in what and what everyone's getting for their money.
Yeah, and I just wanted to emphasize that we're definitely in the same boat. Like, we have 1 internet connection into the valley right now, and when it goes down, it's like we're going to try and repair that as quickly as possible. That's the whole premise of the tribe investing in its own ISP, is that we were kind of fed up with providers that were not responding quickly. I know that, I'm part of the community. I'm friends with Rico, who is also part of the IT. I know that GeoLinks took a while to repair your guys' connection. And he emphasized that they weren't communicating very well with you guys. We're right across the street. You guys know where we live pretty much. So anytime the network goes down, it hurts both of us, not just you. So we'll definitely be there to maintain and keep it up as best we can.
So with the school district purchasing infrastructure for Acorn Wireless, what kind of benefits will we gain down the road? financially?
Well, so the I guess what we would attempt to do based on the discovery is trying to offset the costs over time, but I can't make a formal kind of proposal at this time to tell you what that would look like until we do the discovery I mentioned earlier on understanding what the true cost of the fees would be and the maintenance and operation of that over time. But essentially, the school district is going to benefit quickly in this school year to be able to meet the demand of broadband for the school district and its students. What our goal with the other half is, your students are our customers, so we have a similar stakeholders in this network. We're going to try and reach out to more students as we build this out. And I think that's going to be the best benefit, is just how quickly you can get this solution versus anything else that we have.
Can I add something to that? Do you mind if I add something to that, Spaggy?
Yeah.
Okay. And forgive me for being late. My apologies. The other. Go ahead.
We have some more questions. Martha has a question. Go ahead.
So my question is, so our initial investment would be the almost $600,000. That would be for equipment, and the construction. So, and then after that, we would just be paying per month for fees. Is that correct? We would not be maintaining this equipment. That would be an investment, and once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, and those fees would actually be shared between Acorn and the school district. So it's not that we're going to throw everything at the school district to pay for, since we don't have a funding source currently to pay for that initial investment in the infrastructure. I know that you guys, the school district has a need. That's why they reached out to us. But since the backhaul is going to be 50-50, we are going to cover 50% of that cost, because then we would recoup that in our business model for reaching out to new subscribers.
So we'd get a reduction in our cost per user. And currently we have how many users in our district? Do you know?
1,200.
1,200 users. And what is our current speed rate or what is our capacity now?
250 megabits.
And he's talking about double that.
Double that.
Up
right.
to
So,
1 gigabyte, which could handle everybody.
yeah. And so, yeah, just so to put this a little like some scale to this, when we first went 1-to-1 and purchased Chromebooks, we had a 40 megabit per second internet connection. Super reliable, very slow for the number of users. Mathematically, it just doesn't pencil out the number. But the need there. And a couple years later, we upgraded to 250. Still, I mean, our goal really for students alone is 1 gig. And so 1.25 is what we would like. But we have pretty good internal connections. So like Trinity Valley has a very fast line. Amongst our schools, we can communicate well. What really doesn't exist is connections to the outside. That's been
state testing, for example.
Right. And that's very difficult to come by. So any opportunity that we have to increase our internet capacity, not just our internal network capacity, we really should take a close look at it and see what we can be done, because it really is critical need for the district.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
David, so what we've noticed with like tribal departments is that, and Coast Central Credit Union, is that the contracts with AT&T, which uses Frontier's internet connection, and I believe you guys have a DS3 through that service. Are they threatening to remove that from you guys as well?
Yeah, it's already been done. They sunsetted that service, is no longer exists.
And it may be worth it to educate the board on the cost of that connection, being that it was like a 40 meg connection. Because what we find is we're like a third of the cost as Frontier is.
Well, so in the recent, when they had planned to sunset the connection, the cost went drastically down. It was extremely expensive. When it was very expensive at the time because it was the most reliable internet connection that you can have. We're very lucky to have it.
And then how much was it? Like you say expensive?
By the time, I don't know exactly, but it was between $5,000 and $10,000 a month.
However, you have to remember E-rate offset that
E-rate offset that
because
to a very, very deep discount.
I'm
So
talking
like
90%.
85 to 90%. So, but
That's went away now.
that went away.
No,
and
E-rate's
that's-
still there, but
the cost went down.
40 gig connections.
Meg, so when they ended the sunset, the cost really went down. And it was very cheap by the time that it was removed. But at the time when we were relying on it, the retail price was very expensive. Our cost after E-rate was reasonable. Now we're kind of back at square one. We have we have 250 megs. It's not reliable. It's not the most expensive, and we're putting it on E-rate. So it's cheap, but it's not great. It's low capacity and low reliability. But we have the ability now to bring on multiple connections, and I wouldn't recommend getting rid of any connections that we have, only adding additional connections until we reach a baseline stability, and then we can think about what cutting things loose if we're subscribed. But I don't see that really happening anytime soon.
And also, we did apply for an NTIA grant that would cover these costs, but they were supposed to fund us a year ago, and we would already have the solution ready for you guys. NTIA has just dropped the ball on funding this region and our tribal grant. They are, I think they're approaching a year of their mandated release date of funds to tribes. It was a $1 billion opportunity. Each tribe was roughly, they had to have a budget around $50 million. We supplied the grant for $65 million, which included this exact link we're talking about. But I have not had any funding. I can tell you that we are definitely, I can't tell you that we're 100% going to get it, but I feel that we're like 99% going to get it because they committed hours upon hours of their time. Out of 512 tribes, I think 250 applied. They budgeted $1 billion, $5 billion was requested. They did not have the workforce to kind of dedicate to each application, but they have spent a significant portion of their time working with the Hoopa tribe.
Okay. Okay, well, I think that's gonna do it for us presentation this evening. It was informative to let us know what our options are for internet, and I'm gonna be getting back to you, and letting you know how everything turns out here. I just want us to be forward thinking in our future goals instead of waiting for David to, come up with the next Band-Aid. What can we do? How can we get faster speeds? How come nothing works? How come we can't take a test? It's like I've been hearing that for 30 years. Okay, it's time for us to move forward. We need to start, and if we have ESSER 3 money, and if it was allocated for such a purpose that we're talking about right now, I wanted the board to consider investing in some infrastructure. What do? We get faster speed sooner than waiting for a Frontier or AT&T or Verizon or US Cellular or even Elon Musk's deal up there, Starlink. Okay. I mean, we're considering that too, but I'm sure it has business limitations as well. So I think we're gonna tee off now, and thank you as we move on to our agenda. I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you for your time.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, so like I said, I think that wasn't an action item, it was informational, and I'm not always gonna have that on my things, for my reports, but I want you guys to be thinking about how can we get the internet to our students and our teachers. I mean, so that's that. Okay, my last thing is I invited Melissa here. And Melissa Reese is going to do a short presentation to us on what is happening in the Wellness Center. The Wellness Center, as you know, is our trauma-informed response to our community to help our student body at every site. And so we're always fielding questions every day. What do they do? Who are they helping? Who's working there? Do they just do COVID tests? You know, and I hear it all day. So Melissa, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Sure. So as she said, Melissa Reese, I was hired as the Wellness System Coordinator in January. So I have been employed in this position for about 6 months. And originally, when I was hired, it was to manage day-to-day operations, to expand the wellness system infrastructure, to enhance and expand upon what former employees have already started, and to really coordinate direct services, both one-on-one and crisis management situations. In order to accomplish a lot of those things, we needed to develop some forms. We needed to build personnel and begin to imagine what wellness actually looks like within the district. So I appreciate the opportunity to come here today and share with you a little bit about some of the projects that I worked on last year. Mind you that the focus was really placed on COVID, with the onset of the pandemic. It really shifted the focus, and I tried very hard to balance the need to support the district's students and staff and the community's health and wellness through testing. And that's something that I feel we were very successful in. I had last year one other staff person that I worked closely with regarding COVID, and that staff member had built a strong foundation for testing and support to the district. But together we ended up administering 14,763 tests. So when I came on in January, my very first day, I began testing right away. We did surveillance testing every day with staff and students. We also provided COVID testing for employees who were mandated to test due to their vaccination status. I also worked very hard on collaborating with the PPE distribution throughout the district, managing inventory and being responsive to the student needs. The important part was we had an opportunity to have an end-to-end vendor. So we were provided with a mobile med personnel, one individual who worked full-time within the district. 4 of those days were, she was centered at the wellness center, 8 hours a day. And then on one day a week, went to the river school, specifically to Jack Norton and Witchpeck. In my former position, I was providing the COVID testing at all of the river schools. So when I was no longer there to provide the testing, then we really needed that on-site support. So there was a lot of response and support that was given to the health and wellness of the district. And as I say, the students, the staff, the community, organization of a successful drive-through COVID testing event for early after coming on We also did distribution of at-home tests twice for the entire district. Prior to going on spring break, and then also did a disbursement just before everybody released for summer break. And you know, since then over the summer, we also had our end-to-end vendor providing testing when I left for summer break. So I feel like we did a really good job of addressing the COVID testing needs within our district. Something that we're going to be faced with and moving into this year is we do not know at this moment whether or not we will get another end-to-end vendor. The state is moving towards at-home antigen testing. And it's primarily due to lack of funding. So right now I've answered their CDPH, the California Department of Public Health survey about our desire to have an end-to-end vendor return in the coming year, but I haven't heard anything back. We did sign an MOU, I want to say in late April, perhaps in May, but again, it was, you know, there's been a lot of funding changes that happened that have really affected everybody. So what does that mean to us? It means that if we want to offer COVID testing to our students and to our staff, like we did, mirroring our efforts from last year, it's really going to take personnel to be able to do that. At the Wellness Center, like I said, myself and one other staff member did testing. I mean, every chance somebody came in the door, it was for testing. We did surveillance testing. We had a schedule with Hoopa Elementary. We tested all the students in a week. We had a specialized schedule where they would rotate through. Orleans offered their own, and Trinity Valley took care of theirs, and then our Mobile Med took care of Witchbeck and Jack Norton. So we're really going to have to begin to look at whether or not the district would like to advocate for an end-to-end vendor for COVID testing, or if we are going to provide testing and or we're going to move to an at-home antigen testing model, like many of the other schools are being faced with. I should tell you, you know, 1,400, you know, almost 15,000 tests, 263 of those are positive. I feel like we had a really solid response rate. Anytime a positive staff member or student happened or, you know, was resulted, I contacted the administrator right away. When it came to personnel, we were on it really, really quickly. We also revised our safety protocols with the state in late June and got that submitted, along with, you know, being involved with the safety team. They did an excellent job in developing guidelines. So I share all that with you because, you know, our local rates, you know, have continued to, you know, to increase and decrease. And so please be thinking about how we want to manage some of those situations. In terms of actual mental health, behavioral health, and physical health, during all this in and out of all of this testing, I was able to maintain solid wellness center drop-in hours. Anytime referrals came through, I coordinated with the school social workers and or other staff, behavioral health staff, to help manage and support, whether it was teachers or administration. Also a number of crisis situations that surfaced, and through those experiences, I learned that there was some really important training that needed to happen within our district staff. And so As a former River Schools school social worker, I was already involved in the response to develop a student services referral system, which we successfully did. And by now, many of you have already seen all of that because I've presented previously, and I've also been at community functions. So a flow chart was developed and corresponding referral forms. There were two important referral forms that were distributed, one having to do with mental health specifically, and then the other would be used for academics, behavior, and attendance. And so we're going to continue to educate staff and administration about the importance of utilizing those systems, because what it does is it allows us to leverage district resources rather than creating new positions to manage what we already have. We also were really successful in developing a crisis protocol and resource form, which was also distributed last year. Since then, I had the opportunity and was invited to attend some MTSS and Success for All meetings, and knowing that there are social emotional components to each of those programs that the district had already adopted, I was asked to make a few minor changes to the attendance, behavior, and academic form, which I did to allow us to streamline the process and avoid the need to develop yet another referral form. So that's been taken care of. Also, we want to start being able to develop processes for confidentiality and consent forms for our families and our students through the Wellness Center. So last year also there were 5 forms that were developed and approved. They went through legal, and now those have been finalized, ready to implement those as well. A monthly student support report form was developed in order to help our school social workers be able to provide some data or feedback about the type of work that they're doing. So once again, we get those forms in. All of that information was being streamlined and sent directly to Dr. Campbell for review and incorporation with the student services reports that he does monthly. So that we now have a tracking system for caseloads as well. And very soon, we hope to be implementing a student check-in system. It's actually a kiosk that would be located in the entrance area of the Wellness Center. So it'll give us more data about who we're serving and what we're serving them for. That way I can produce reports. Evidence-based decisions are much easier when we have some information to go off of, because right now we don't have a way to gauge that. People come in the Wellness Center, we serve them for whatever reason, but we don't have a way that has been tallied. So all of these efforts are being done in order to enhance and expand upon the work that's already been done. There's been some wonderful changes that have happened in personnel that's bringing, a fresh perspective, perhaps. But I think none of this takes away from what the board or the school district was looking for in a wellness system. It's just going to enhance it. So this year, I hope to continue to work on these things along with website development over the summer. In July, we had a contract that was submitted for the development of the wellness system Google website. And I had some brief conversation with Dave Daly, and in order to provide resource support, some self-help kinds of things for families, for students, for teachers. There's a whole section that's devoted for resources for our staffing. So I'm looking forward to having that complete, being able to have it integrated on our existing website in order to give some tangible information, concrete resources for folks to view at their leisure. Like last year, this year, I plan to continue to respond to the River Schools mood meters. Former position, that was something that I developed, was a mood meter process, and even after leaving that position, I still had students that would complete those and ask to speak to me. In the absence of the school social worker position being filled, I was tasked with being responsive to those needs. And so I plan to continue to do that in the absence of the school social worker, since I've already established those relationships, trusting relationships, and it also gives me an opportunity to go on site and talk with the staff and support the families. So those are just the things that we're doing. You already know that a wellness outreach specialist was hired, since you all approved that this last year. I'm looking forward to some training for that person to get them started on the 17th. I'm also looking forward to collaborating more with the school social workers for training, documentation, load management, that sort of thing. And I expect that will be coming soon. We were slotted and scheduled for a really awesome 2-day training, which has been canceled because of the fires. But Virgil Moorhead and I were going to be working collaboratively on providing some trauma-informed care information, talking about the wellness system, crisis support, and then also a component on reimagining wellness within the district. So lots and lots of wonderful things are happening within the wellness center, but specifically within the wellness system. There's one piece that has not been complete at the wellness center in my mind, and that is we were trying to expand tier 1 and tier 2 supports, and with that we needed a wall taken down and a window put in order to expand the waiting and drop-in wellness area. Because right now we have so many community partners that are anxious to serve our students. We do not have a space for them to meet with students. And because there's so much focus that has been on individual one-on-one counseling, what we're seeing is that we are never going to be able to keep up with the need unless we expand to tier 1 and tier 2 supports. So we hope to get into the classroom offering a wellness 101 workshop, and we really, really need the support of the board to approve some deconstruction, to take a wall down and put in a window so that we can offer area for students to come into the wellness center. So that the 3 empty rooms that we have at the wellness center can continue to be used for one-on-one counseling. We're going to work on a youth advisory board and council. We're going to start evaluating delivery of service. We are going to continue to leverage resources. But more importantly is we're going to utilize all of the district support that we have in our community and tribal partners in order to accomplish these goals, because we just can't do this alone. You know, we are a staff of 3. We hope to have a school nurse, but right now we're just a staff of 3. So we have to really maximize our networking and our resources in order to best serve our students and our staff and administration.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Thank you for taking the time this evening. Questions for Melissa? The only last thing in my report is that, which is not a secret, that I am at impasse with the KTTA and that we will work toward negotiations this year. Yes,
Oh,
Well,
I took building, yes.
so it's on the agenda here, our building update.
But Carly to do an update, oh, yeah.
Mine's gonna be, mine's gonna be very short and sweet. Can't talk what just happened here. So we had a notice to proceed on July 14th. And we had our first pre-construction meeting on August 2nd to go over some logistics and get to know our construction management team that is going to be working on our building. And so we are going to be moving ground on the 15th. So we have a local contractor that's a subcontractor that will be on site on the 15th, starting to move some dirt around. So that's really exciting. We postponed the golden shovel for our grand opening of it. And I'll need to talk to you guys afterwards to see if you would like to be a part of that. We postponed it because I was out of commission for a bit, and we just figured I should probably rest up. Otherwise, it would have been today. So can you imagine?
Anybody that wants their picture taken with the shovel and the
Shovel,
red
so-
ribbon and the cutting and all of that,
We'll,
just please.
we'll have a discussion, to see if it's gonna be on a board meeting day. Just to make that happen, if you would like to be a part of that. Otherwise, you can say, just move on, get it done. Cut the ribbon and we're good to go. I'm okay with that as well. But that's my short and sweet. We're getting that building.
Okay, moving on.
Number 7, consent agenda. Steve, you already made your comments on that, right?
Yes,
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
One comment on 7G. The last page of that should say superintendent.
Oh, Oh, I see what you mean. We're talking about.
Everybody vote on that?
No.
Associate principal for educational services is in yellow.
It should be
That should be say
superintendent.
superintendent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Martha, I'm sorry, may I take a short break?
Yes, you may. Mhm. Yeah, I'm gonna just kind of do. This is
No, my lights turned on. Steve, can you turn on
Yeah,
another
I
one
was
of
gonna
those
do that
lights back there,
first.
please?
Yeah, I thought you said
That would make
A.
sense.
well, Willie is gonna do the safety check.
Wrinkles over
I
there.
thought my eyes were
Right?
like.
Wrinkles.
Thank you, Lily.
That's all
Yeah, did it happen?
It happened?
No.
Oh. He's gonna be a
Sorry.
grandpa any minute.
Oh.
Okay. So we'll move on to 8 action items. We have moved the very first action item, the emergency school closure, to the beginning. Steve, did you want to make your comments now?
Well, I want to talk about I and L, however you want it.
Okay, I'll call on you when we get to that.
Okay.
All right. Okay, A, emergency school closure.
So this item is on the agenda because I need the board to consider the distinct possibility that these fires will remain out of control, particularly the ones that are happening up in Salyer, Willow Creek areas. Right now I have at least 5 administrators that are evacuated or displaced or told to not be in their home again. I know some of you here are in that boat too. And I'm not sure how many teachers I haven't done or the rest of the employees, but it's enough for me to cancel the PD next week. When I'm communicating with people on the roof, while they're holding a hose, while they're trying to put out, fires, that's ridiculous. I feel that, I need to stop the insanity and we need to slow down and take care of ourselves first and our homes and our families, which is our reason for being here. Yes.
Question. I don't know the details, but I expect that a superintendent has a certain amount of discretion on their own. Would it suffice if we just gave you a consensus that the board would accept your discretion for, say, 1 week when you think it's time to?
When it's time to make that call, I guess that's what I'm saying is that I need that kind of a.
I would think you legally have a certain amount of discretion. You don't have to call us up and ask our opinion if there's a major event. I would think you would.
But we could give her, we could give her
Our
assent.
agreement, our consensus that for 1 week, you could pick a week. What does the rest of the board think about that? If, when the time comes, maybe tomorrow you'll say we just need to do it. But it might not, you might
That
not.
wouldn't be that soon. It would be probably at least another week or 2 weeks out.
But
We're 15 days away from starting school, okay? So if I wait till the end of next week and I sort of see what, we are an incident type 1 now, so that means they're putting in more resources, assuming that no other fires break out anywhere and they have to pull them, to the higher taxpayer brackets. That's how I feel about it. The mansions get saved and we get burned because, we're just hillbillies or whatever. That's a joke. So I do need to have some direction from the board as to the possibility of needing to maybe start school later than the 24th.
That would be okay with me.
Yeah. And,
I would keep everybody, all the stakeholders apprised, but that's a possibility.
Now, Debbie, you did say that the Europe dances were canceled.
Those I think were set to start though, like September 1st, the starting date on them. So I don't know what.
is that when we were, so was it specifically those dances that we have the week for this year?
I believe so. I believe that's in the calendar to attend.
It is in the
those.
calendar, but.
So if they're canceling those, then, that's a possibility that we could make up some days there if we had to. So I just want everybody to know that there's possibility, just like every year, we try to start normal and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Never, so.
Well, I think I could speak for the board when I say if you make the call and, and let us know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
And then.
I'll keep you posted on the daily and what's going on. It's getting progressively worse is what my
Right.
daily reports with my people and just trying to plan for this PD and things starting and everybody's so scattered and everywhere that they can't focus on this. They're worried about their homes, they're worried about their house, they're worried about their pets, they're worried about, everything.
Yeah. Okay.
So I need to alleviate that from them as much as I can. Okay?
Yep.
That's all.
All right. I'm going to call it A2, approval of memorandum of
Is there a
understanding.
motion on that first one?
It was consensus.
It was consensus.
Okay.
Consensus.
Form them.
Okay, I get that.
Superintendent discretion.
Approval of memorandum of understanding between CSEA, KT Chapter 347, and Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School Districts, increase hours and days supply worker. Have a motion.
I make a motion to approve that, or did somebody else?
You do, but I'll second it.
Oh, yeah. Make a motion.
Okay. Do we have any discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, so the motion passes. B, approval of the interdistrict attendance agreement between Humboldt County of Education. That should be Office of Education. And Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District. Do you,
Make a motion to approve the interdistrict.
I'll second that.
any discussion? Okay, hearing none, call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition, that motion passes. I'm getting really good at this. Okay. Approval of payment for Jessica Colvin, the school Wells founder for Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District staff.
I make the motions that we approve it.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
I have some discussion.
Oh, you already have.
So this was from April 18th until June 30th. That's 11 weeks. And so has she completed the work for that? And we have.
Yes, yes, she
reports?
has.
Okay.
Yes. And so what happened was her original contract was terminated in April, but the verbal agreement with the superintendent that was here was to continue working, and she did, but no contract was written, so I'm having to go back and pay her for the work that she did per the verbal agreement.
And that completes her work.
That
with the
completes
district.
her year-long, last year's work with us.
And that's not a problem with the auditors.
It has to be approved by you guys in this fiscal year for something that happened last fiscal year.
Okay,
So that's why it's on your debt. That's why it's brought to your attention. It is a problem with the auditors. It's a big problem, but we're trying to correct it.
oh, yeah. I was just gonna move on. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Approval of D, approval of memorandum of understanding between Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District and CSEA, Chapter 347, Mechanic 3, move range of pay. And,
I move to approve that. I mean, I make a motion.
okay. We have a second.
I will second that.
Do we have any discussion?
So just have a clarification, that the resource will be 0210 unless the transportation department, and that is actually coming from LCFF.
Oh,
So instead of impact date, just write 0210 LCFF.
That's part of the supplemental concentration portion.
I appreciate the cover sheets that give us that information.
Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion passes. Approval of memorandum of agreement between Turnaround Arts and Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District for the 22-23 school year. Do we have any?
I move we approve.
I second. I'd like to make a comment.
Okay,
Let 2021 Was this the 2021?
I can't hear
No,
you.
no, never mind. This is the 2022 one. I want to make a comment on the second one. It's the one that has all of the, yeah, it's the second. one.
So this is the new agreement. The one you're voting on right now is their new agreement for this year. The one that's coming up next is, they just sent us a check and you haven't officially accepted it.
Okay.
So they're not able to use it.
I need clarification on the amount.
Which one? First one?
4,500, but I thought it was 3,000.
Well, the second one says 3,000. That's the check we got for 21-22, the previous.
And they
year.
already sent that. That's already been done.
And then this is the new check that we have, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't state in the grant that amount. That's why I'm wondering, like, is it missing there? I don't read what's Check that they added, there was like cost. There's 3, and then if you go down there. No, it's only 3 grand in the finance, so it's not 4,500.
It's only, it should only be 3,000. Not 4,500.
No. What's the 500? What are you reading? What's the 500 for 3,000? The amount is 3,000, and it's for 20 hours, $50 an hour for the committee. And then the stipends for the muralist is 1,000, and the art supplies is 500. So it's not the 4,000. It's not the 4,000, it's 3,000.
So that's 4,000. So that's 4,500.
So I got it cheaper. It actually.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. It's only 3.
The total that they're committing to us is 3,000.
Yes.
And they said, stipends for native muralists, $1,000, student art supplies, $500, and strategy keeper stipends, 20 hours at $50 an hour.
So that's how you spend the 3,000. You don't add it.
Okay, so it's 3,000.
So it's still just 3,000.
So you need a motion on that.
Yeah, I need a motion to accept that.
For 3,000.
I move we approve the 3,000.
To accept that. I have to make that motion.
Wait a minute. You making a motion and you just.
Whoever said approve.
Consensus. It doesn't matter. I think Laura did.
Okay.
I do say.
All in favor?
I
Opposed?
So go ahead and do the next one then.
It's already been approved. This was approved last year. That's why it was. Why you had to bring it back.
The 21-22?
Yeah, that was done already.
Well, I'm not making a comment on it anyway.
You can't be sick, Carmen. You want to give up.
The comment I want to make is I just really enjoyed looking at all the artwork that came out of that.
Yes.
It was just amazing and the kids were just beaming, showing it off. It was just wonderful.
It was wonderful to have that break in the reading the whole packet. And I spent more time on the artwork and loved it.
Oh,
Yeah, it was really awesome. Yeah, I wrote awesome results here.
Yeah.
That was her end of the year report, wasn't it? It was just awesome.
Yes.
So
Okay,
you're
so
welcome.
no action on this.
G, approval of memorandum of understanding between CSEA Chapter 347 and Klamath Regional Unified School District commuter mileage allowance for 22-23 and 23-24 school years. Any discussion on that?
It only applies to 3 people. Their names are there. And the amounts that they would get are there, are the miles.
Well, that's because we offered a CSEA, and not just the teachers. Because we've been doing that for the teachers.
They're on here too. They'll be next.
No?
I mean,
Oh.
they're on here on the agenda item next, but what
Okay.
we're offering to one, we're offering to the other. That's
Good.
correct.
Good thing.
I move we approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition, that motion passes. Approval of memorandum of understanding between Klamath Trinity Teachers Association and Klamath Trinity Unified School District for professional development rate of pay for participants.
I move we approve this memorandum.
And I second that.
Any
And I was
discussion?
just blown away by the amount of people that are coming over from the coast.
That are what?
There's a lot of people coming over to our district.
Yeah.
From the coast. That's a lot of people.
So this one says that they're gonna be paid, not column one, step one for PD, that they're gonna be paid their hourly rate wherever they are on the salary schedule. When we have PD days. That's what that
I thought that was one.
Oh, do we? Can you vote on that?
Oh, last one.
Made a motion.
I said, I moved and then.
I can't hear you. You're muffled. I can't
I'm
hear what
sorry.
you're saying.
Okay.
I didn't get a second.
Well, I second if you need one.
Okay, good.
Debbie seconded.
Oh.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Steve had an issue, wanted to speak on
Yes.
this
Steve
I.
wanted to speak on I, speak on I.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments, one or a question of one and then a comment. How many teachers are currently on special assignment that aren't in the classroom, that could be in the classroom?
I believe 4 total, 2 at Hoopa L, and then Sarah Mitch is a Success for All reading teacher, and so is Christina West. We had a third one, but he's accepted a position back in the classroom.
Okay, it seems like you take well-qualified teachers out of the classroom, and then they mentor or are replaced with people that really don't have the appropriate credentials. That seems problematic for the students, not getting the best that they could have. I would suggest that you might want to revisit that at some point in time. And then my comment is, I know you advertise in several places, but on the Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District website, you have a jobs announcement. And there is one job in there that's advertised for 2022. So if I was looking on that, thinking I'm a potential teacher, I'm gonna think, what kind of clown outfit is this that can't even keep something up that's 2 years out of date? You know, I know, Jennifer, you're gonna be a lot different than what we've had. And I'm gonna appreciate
Trying to get
that.
the internet to the site.
But that isn't just the internet. Anyone can get on there. I don't have a gigabyte of whatever, but I can look on there and say, my God, 2021, that's a great job. Maybe I'll apply for it, You're not gonna get people if you don't stay updated, if you don't stay current, and you don't stay relevant. They're gonna pass you by. So when I hear these things, we've got to lower the standards. I believe that to be problematic. Who loses? The students lose.
Can I ask you a clarifying question? Was that our website or was that EdJoin?
No, it's the Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School.
There's a link
District.
to
EdJoin.
So we need to.
I think EdJoin is probably more current. If you're not going to use it, get rid of it.
There's a link to
Just make it more user friendly. I understand.
It's not user friendly, updated.
Update, right.
Our websites need to be updated across the.
Yeah, there's other things in there, but that one
Yes.
just happens to be here, which to me is relevant and getting qualified people. So look at it.
I move we approve.
I second.
All in favor? Any discussion? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, 8J, approval of signing bonuses for the 22-23 school year. Do we have any comments on that?
I move we approve.
And I second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Oh, approval of school contract, 22-20. Yeah, sorry, I went on the wrong.
So we just paid the woman for last year, and believe it or not, she wants to come back again. So Melissa, would you like to say anything about the services that Jessica provides to you before they take a vote here?
Sure. Jessica Colvin is really responsible for the advancement of and enhancement of our wellness system. I don't know exactly how many wellness centers or systems that she's been involved with. My guess is somewhere around 50 plus. And so I worked with her very closely in the 6 months that I was in the position, but even in my former role, she was really instrumental in creating the wellness system flow chart and beginning to help us establish and guide us through the process of the request forms. I worked with her a total of 3 hours per week, 2 hours consulting and working on projects actively. And then 1 hour a week was devoted to collaboration with our superintendent, Two Feathers, and myself, talking about collaboration and wellness in general. So I really hope that the board will choose to support this contract so that we can continue to learn and really benefit from her experience and continued guidance in the coming year, especially given all of the organizational change that we're experiencing. I no longer have a lot of the support that I previously.
So does she work one-on-one with students or she just does reports?
That's a great question. She's based out of San Francisco, so the consulting that has already occurred is with staff. It's with myself. It was with the assistant superintendent of student services in guiding us. She was also really instrumental in conducting a needs assessment in collaboration with Two Feathers and the district last year. Hopefully you've seen the results of that and all the recommendations that she's made. And that's really how I'm moving forward, is through this needs assessment. She interviewed lots and lots and lots of personnel that are student service driven. And like I said, those recommendations are kind of the map that I'm following in advancing our social emotional support throughout the district.
At what point will our relationship with her end? I mean, is she something that we look forward to every year, or will she eventually have a point where she says, you guys are great?
Yeah. And like I said, in my new capacity, it's been 6 months. But my guess is that this year is really going to allow us templates. She's been really instrumental in sharing, like I said, forms, posters, introducing us to other consultants. She was working with Two Feathers initially, and Two Feathers made the recommendation for her work with the district. So I haven't seen her contract this year, nor did I see last year's, but what I can tell you is that the district has really benefited from her experience and expertise in this particular area.
So last year, Two Feathers had something called the Chooks grant, and they paid for, is it half of this, Carly?
Yes.
Half of the contract, and I'm gonna work with Virgil to see if he can also come up with this year's half. So we're sharing the cost, but right now I don't have that commitment, so it'll have the total cost, $39,000 for the year.
I noticed that staff training opportunities, one of them is trauma-informed schools. So is that something that will actually be here this year, bringing some training in on that?
Yeah, so the PD that was canceled recently, she'd worked very hard over the summer. I worked with her intermittently over the summer, informally, but I can tell you that she worked very hard. I have the presentation and I've been checking.
It's
it
actually
regularly.
attached, so the whole board can read her, what she
Right.
was gonna do at our PD day. Okay, it's all these, what she's doing.
And hopefully we can.
And we're gonna reschedule.
We're just rescheduling, we just had to
Yes.
postpone it.
Yeah, we're postponed.
Right.
And then also too is that, you know, with the recent hire of the wellness outreach specialist, you know, all of that training, initial training is supposed to come from her too, in guidance, regular meetings, that sort of thing. So like I said, I feel like she has a lot to offer us and it's very tangible. It's stuff that we can absolutely move forward with immediately, and we've already done that.
I make a motion to approve that.
I second.
Okay.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next one.
Steve? I think you have did you have
Yeah,
a
on
comment?
this one, I just wanted to know if these costs were included in the budget that you recently adopted at the end of June. Okay.
It's in our ESSER plan.
Yeah, ESSER 3 is where we're identifying it from on the front cover sheet. So
Yeah, but that's when you hand out the budget, it doesn't come out that way.
Oh.
So we don't get the detail out here in the cheap seats. You know, we just get the summary, so it's really hard to tell. That's why I suggested last time that you provide the supplemental detail to this, so you see where it all rolls up. Your consultants, I never did get a copy of what the consultant fees were and why did that increase. But on this one, you can't tell either. I'm glad it is in the budget because I see some significant increases to the deficit just happened today with buyout of the former,
some of this.
the former person.
Some of this, Steve, is the COVID monies that we're spending. That's not the LCFF or supplemental.
That's great. I don't disagree with it whatsoever. I worry about the rising deficit when you know, what, 1.8 million deficit.
We
That
don't
nice,
spend this, we lose it.
pardon me?
If we don't spend this by a certain date.
I'm just letting you know if it's in the budget. I'm not asking anything more than that, but I'm just saying if there was a detail, you wouldn't have to listen to me.
I make a motion to approve that.
A second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of Cooper Elementary cafeteria tables due to safety issues. Yeah.
I think you skipped L. Did you skip generators?
No, that was it.
Oh, sorry.
Talked about that.
I move we approve those
I
tables are
second that,
terrible.
Okay,
I second that, Laura.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any discussion?
This tool is in the ESSER 3 plan.
It is.
And it is for social distancing. Not only is it for safety issues, but we will also be utilizing this fund. It's allowable based on our social distancing.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I don't know, this isn't the right one.
What?
In.
Yeah.
And
I've got
it's
one.
Cal Poly Humboldt
I'm
and
missing N.
intern.
You're missing it in.
Okay.
You're missing it?
It's on my agenda list, but I don't have it unless it's. Okay.
So it's the agreement.
Moved up.
Okay.
Cal Poly.
Approval of memorandum of understanding between Cal Poly Humboldt and Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District. Do we have any discussion?
I make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Okay. And All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Approve-
Can I ask a question? Was this, help that our intern?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
that's what I had seen earlier, and I kind of assumed it, but I want to make sure.
yes, it is. These people will work with our interns that, since I put out the notice and declared some of them are not credentialed, to get their credentials.
Yeah, it's very good.
Approval of service contract between Square Humboldt and Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District. Do you have any discussion?
I just need a clarification on the local foundation.
The resource.
Resource. I don't know what that is.
That's, the resource.
So this is something that the former superintendent has
This was the
started.
CHIPS grant, so I need to know how. I don't know what the plan development, well, I mean, half of it. And
Half as well, and then this is, did we identify that? And that's what you're saying is
I-
Jukes.
yes,
Okay,
so I need to,
that's where it was paid from last year, and so we need to, we can approve it pending money there, but this is something that the high school wanted to continue.
yeah, I need to find out what. Yes.
Okay, and then if not, then I can identify another source.
So pending budget clarification.
Well, anyway, they work with the students, the LGBTQ population, and help them get through their education. And they started last year, and it was something positive that they would like to see continue this year.
Okay. So if there is a budgeting string, does that help?
No,
No.
because she's saying she was absent when I was adding things to the budget, so,
Well, I can't give you a definite that funding source is available for this.
but there could be another one, so we could say pending funding source.
Yeah, because, yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so who made the
I
motion?
move we approve the contract between Greer Humboldt and Klamath Trinity pending a funding source.
We'll look at that in the morning.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Approval to amend the ESER 3 plan to allow for purchase of vehicles.
I move we approve.
And I second that.
Do we have any discussion?
Do you have vehicles in mind?
Yes, Missy has, do you want to say something about the vehicles, Missy, or just no wait?
Yeah, sure. So we have a shortage of vehicles in the district. So our Captain John site is one of them that has nothing. Our Jack Norton site has nothing. And they're so rural, and to be down there with emergency situations, and during COVID, everybody helped in all of these vans and all of these transportation. So I feel like it qualifies in that category of getting vehicles, and we need them. Our outreach scream at the top of the lungs all the time that they don't have enough. I don't have enough to go around for, like when tech wants to use them and go places too, to go help distribute and help out in all the schools. So there's a huge need for vehicles. That's just the touch of the iceberg of what our students' needs are.
Yeah.
We're also gonna have another need later down the road because fleet gives out. And so there's gotta be a rotation of fleet that comes back in and out throughout the years. It just wears out. We drive them until they die. So.
I just have, I need some clarification, because we're stating, to the state that it's home to school, services for our students. We need to be aware that our insurance will now go up to 25,000 per vehicle, and the drivers are going to have to get into our DOT program, because we're stating that it's home to school. So just
It
so-
won't, yeah, it won't always be home to school. It's appointments, it's outreach, going out and grabbing students that
But
are
to the
not
state-
always
but
called
to the
home to
state,
school.
it's called home to school. And therefore, our insurance to the JPA, that's a requirement. I'm just. letting you-
25,000 for what?
For vehicle.
It's only if you were to use that vehicle every day for home to school.
Like we're
So
saying, that's a bus route.
And-
Yeah.
But that's like we're saying though, to the state, that's what we're utilizing it for. I'm just letting you guys know that that will come
Can we
up
take
as
that
an
language
issue.
out of there?
Yeah, this was actually written by Janice Lorenzo, submitted by me, because she sat down with us last Friday.
It's fine,
and she
it's
actually
fine.
wrote
I'm
this.
just letting you know.
There's
she-
extra cost.
There's extra cost and there's extra things that have to happen for us to do this.
$25,000 as opposed to how much without that language?
I think it's 1,200.
Yeah, our regular insurance is $1,000 deductible for anything that happens in the district.
And now
What
you're
she's
saying-
talking about is if we use these vans every single day and picked up the same kids as a bus run, and that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is helping if there are also field trips, there's also emergency, like down at Jack Norton, not having anything in a rural area like that, it's, what are we gonna do? It's
Just for
scary. It's,
example, yeah, at Orleans, it's homeschool.
I'm not
homeschool,
stopping it. It's homeschool,
No, no, no.
homeschool. I'm
And
just
that's
letting
fine,
you
but
know
these
if
are
something
just-
happens.
But how about if a vehicle is just doing like picking up a kid?
that's how we get the
Would
waiver
it
on
still
it.
be considered a home to school?
No,
Based
what's
on this
home?
language though.
Well, I could change the language.
Yeah, that's it.
That's real easy.
I'm just putting it out there that
It would go
this
from
language is
1,200
specific and it'll be a requirement that we change the insurance for it, which is fine.
Well, it's
So
not fine
just,
if it
just
costs
that sentence that
$25,000.
says.
Yeah, for a little fender bender, that's a big ordeal. So
It
that's a
is.
little bit, the language is a little bit different where I know where you're coming from, Carm, because that language has been out there for a while. And what it is it's the home to school. If we were to run every single day, pick the same students up every single day that van was the only thing that used for that. We had no other buses, we had no other transportation. So how we waive that is we do have buses in there. This is additional like things when they maybe need to go on a field trip or there's an emergency and somebody's got to take a kid home, or maybe a kid missed the bus and then that van needs to go down and get them. Those sources, that's where we don't have to have the $25,000 deductible.
I
Where the
think-
$25,000 deductible comes in is if we're using that every day and we're going out and we're picking up Johnny every single day and we're saying he's home to school, just him.
What Carmi is saying is we put home to school in the description. We need to.
Oh, I don't-
That was Janice Lorenzo. So
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
We need to just change.
Okay,
that.
okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we do want to take that out because if it does come with the $25,000 deductible.
And is that
And the
what-
driver has to go in a drug and alcohol pool. So if we get a little fender bender in our van, we're on a field trip, but that van's attached to that, we don't want to do that. We want to stay away from the $25,000
And
and
what should we put in there instead of school to home services, just to facilitate
Facilitate
emergency,
student transportation services.
emergency.
Would be outreach.
it'd be
Outreach.
outreach would be the biggest, yeah.
No.
That won't qualify because those are like activities, I guess they would probably call them.
Outreach
It would be
transportation.
qualify would be more outreach because they qualify to take them to appointments and.
But even at that, so with the, are you transporting them for mental health services? Are you, it has to line up
With health.
with health? It has to
Well, you
line up.
can be transporting them to mental health now.
Figure out the words.
Yes, I will.
So why do we need a van if we're only transporting one student here and one student there?
Because all of the sites do things like throughout the day where they have different things that go on and there's no vehicles for them to utilize, like to come check out. I don't have hardly any vehicles for them to use to go like every site. The ones that I put in for right now is Captain John. Captain John always had a van. They have McKinley Vito and all of this kind of stuff and the homeless foster kids and they call them, they got to get in and get there, go help out with them. They miss the bus. They have no parents. They're couch surfing. They're like, so for that, they reach over to the sites, at the outreach people that they trust to, hey, help me out. I need, I've been out here on the streets for days and days and days. Can you come and help me? And they get them back into school and they get them back here, and then we start getting them lined back out, but that's where they reach, and that's the outreaches have been using our vehicles. I can show miles of the vehicles that are, I'm killing to keep using.
Yeah, outreach transportation.
It's outreach
So I'll change
transportation.
that to outreach.
I'll give you the 16 allowable uses as well.
Okay.
Sorry about the language.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I want to thank you.
Did we? have a motion?
I made the motion.
Debbie made the motion.
Was the other way?
No, it's the other way around.
Oh.
Your motion and Debbie seconded.
Yeah, she seconded.
All right, we gotta wait for Tom.
Did a quorum without them.
I know, but
You're just looking at reports and information. There's no discussion.
There's no voting or.
Yeah, the rest
Just discuss.
Well,
It's just,
this
It's
last one, we
approval
talked
of
about-
amended
we haven't-
ESSER plan to allow for emergency use.
Oh, you guys
Action.
didn't do that one?
You did, we haven't,
It
we
is an
haven't voted on it
action.
yet.
Oh, I thought
you did too.
You have a quorum.
You doing that right now?
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we have one board member out of the, having a baby.
Checking on his grandson.
9 reports and information. Oh my gosh, I think we might be out of here by 2:00. What is that mean?
Yeah, we
You
just.
guys asked me to work, all right?
Yeah.
Slow down a little bit. I got another
there's
file.
no discussion for reports.
Yeah,
There's no discussion for reports and information.
Just
Just
take
read
them.
them.
Just take them and read
It
them.
looks like we're down to a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Trustee area report.
Oh, yeah, anybody have a report from the board? Trustee area reports.
Can't think of anything.
Nope, they don't want to say one thing.
Well,
No comments.
I did, I talked about, I talked to some folks in our area about, how, that last year we had to close the library classroom because we didn't have enough students in there, we didn't have a teacher, and they got moved to the Witch Fix school. And now I'm getting reports that they really like it at Witch Fix school, and they don't want to come back to Jack Norton because it's another hour drive for them. It's like 15 minutes to the school in Witch Fix. Those folks that are just moved into Trulieville and go down to Jack Norton is another, half hour, 45 minutes. And so they're really liking it.
So it worked out for the best for them.
So it did. It's nice up there. But then we are looking at some students that are gonna be like going into the 4th grade and they don't want to leave that school. I get and in 4th grade, they're only K through 3. So I don't know if there's a possibility that we could go up another classroom and give kids a chance to get a little more mature and not be so, afraid to leave or something, but I just want to put it in.
We'll
out
talk,
there
thinking
that-
about that teacher.
I know.
If we'd
Well, I
hire
think
him.
right
We'll
now,
see how many of them. Is
I
there
think
only one 4th grade that wants to stay right now?
I think so, for sure, one, there could be 2, but I know one student is really not wanting to go anyways. Stay there with his brother.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
Are you guys considering adding a TK to Witch Peck also? Because that would be 5 grade levels then.
That would
four
be-
now.
Were we adding a TK to Witch Pick Elementary?
Do we have a qualified teacher?
I don't know.
I don't
talked
believe
about
we
that.
were
I don't
this
think
year.
We did, but.
She's in the process.
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard
Is
that
she
we even
getting-
needed it.
Is she wanting to do that teacher?
She's taking classes right now.
Who's
Well, I
taking
think it
classes?
is something that was
We
needed
should go.
because
Yeah.
last year we did lose 2 or 3 students from Tule Creek that came in new because they were TK and we weren't accepting them at Witch Pick. And the mom didn't want to send them all the way down to Jack Norton. So there is, I think, a need for that. But I think we're also going to be needing to look at another teacher's aide there. Because I think the teacher's aide that's been there has taken a different job over the summer and she likes it and she's not probably going to be coming back.
This is the first I've heard from sitting on the board that there was a need for one at which, so there's.
Jason was aware. I just assumed you guys had the info.
She could be getting that credential just because she wants to get that credential and it helps her in her own personal
It
life.
helps the district, but at this late in the year,
Didn't we kind of have a hard no on that? earlier because we hadn't
Yes.
prepared for it.
Yeah, I think that we were considering having all that being
I
done.
mean, because we had
the year
heard
after
yes
this.
and then
That
no,
way
and
it
then
gave
yes,
everybody
and
a
then no,
chance.
and so we just finally said, it's too late, for
I
us.
mean, I think it's great that she wants to do that because we have the teachers down there and they don't want to do that. They don't want to do it.
I think it's progress in the right direction. I think it is. And, you know, I don't want people to do that. Then I want people to have to have-
Doesn't that bring in extra money too? Doesn't that open the
I
door
think
for?
it's great that we have teachers that are interested in doing that. It will allow us to plan ahead a little bit, figure out what we're doing instead of last minute.
Isn't last year the last year we have to get it together?
Yes. What? I believe it is.
Like
So
next year you have to.
We have to get it together.
You don't have choice. There's no more planning.
You guys will.
Some of them,
I can't.
Oh,
we got this, Laura.
Some of them will be retired.
Okay,
Okay, so somebody has to, I move we adjourn.
I second.
all in favor?
Motion.
We just needed this. Okay. Motion passes. We're adjourned.
Thank you guys for all that you do. You guys have a